Good morning, everybody, or afternoon, or evening, wherever you're watching around the world. Big up to all of you, nice and early, that I've got here. Listen, we're going to talk all things Arsenal. We're going to talk a little bit about tactics today, and I'm not really one for tactics stats. I'm not really one for getting out um, tactics boards, but I'm going to do my best to try that today because I've seen a lot of changes in this Arsenal side in the last few weeks since we had that little warm weather session in Dubai, and I think it's time that we start talking about it in a little bit more detail. So that's what I'm going to do today. We're going to talk about some of the improvements to some of the individuals that actually aren't getting a mention that perhaps deserve a little bit of a mention. Perhaps David Raya, perhaps Kai Havertz, perhaps Jacob Kiwior. Apparently, I've got some audio issues. Apparently, if my mic is loud, so apologies if you can hear me a bit loud this morning. Um, so we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the style of play. We're going to talk about how fluid that we are. We're going to talk about our set pieces in detail as to how that has been kind of rectified, I suppose. Even though it's hard to say rectified, even though we were actually in a position where we were scoring more set pieces than some in the league, even before Dubai. But actually, we've got better with that and we've completely changed it. So fair play. And tactically, we're going to look at what Arteta has done to allow our style of play to be a little bit more free flowing. Do me a favor before we get into the show. Make sure that you like this video and also make sure that you subscribe. We're getting very close to 20k. We've just hit 16k. And we're almost close to 17. So please make sure that you're part of the community and that you hit the like button and subscribe. And if you do want to join as a member, then you also can do. Please make sure if you want one of these behind me on the wall, the blue and yellow cannon, there is our Arsenal colours as well. In terms of red and white colours, make sure you go into the link in the description, drop a DM to Russell Hogg Photography on Instagram, tell him you're a gooner at Dan Potset you and he'll sort you out. Make sure you go over to Bread and Honey Bets as well in the Patreon and make sure you check out Football Prizes. That is the sponsorships done. Now, let's talk a little bit about Arsenal, shall we? If you haven't gone and checked out my fan cam from yesterday, straight after the game, raw emotion, then please make sure you do that on the last video. But we're here today to talk all things Arsenal and look at how things have improved in the last few games, because to score 21 goals in the game since we've arrived back from Dubai is phenomenal. To only have conceded 2 is even more scary. And let's be real, the 2 goals we've actually conceded haven't been through outstanding play against us. It's been through real poor mistakes. And that's what I think is even more frustrating. Saliba got bodied by a 1-year against Forest and he scored. And Saliba, Raya, Gabriel have all made a bit of a cock up against Liverpool. And that's gone in. So really, when you look at it defensively, we've been sound. And those 2 errors kind of put a little bit of a question mark into, have we improved better defensively as a team this year? And I think the answer is yes. Sometimes stats will prove otherwise, and we've conceded more, or why have we conceded more in these games? Why are we looking at these individual errors? And that would all be fair. I think that would be fair to question. But David Raya has got, I think, the most clean sheets now this season. Arsenal got the best defensive record this season. So there definitely has been improvements. And I think Gabriel, Saliba and Rice have proved why that is the case in the first, 20 games of the season. Now we're starting to move into the latter part. We're starting to see a little bit of a different change. And I think warm weather training in Dubai is sometimes needed. People took the mick out of it and said, we've just lost and now they're all sunning it up in Dubai. I probably said stuff like that as well, to be fair. I think we were all hurting, weren't we? We were all emotional. We were all sitting there working, slogging our asses off, and they're sitting there in Dubai and chilling out. But actually, whatever they did in Dubai, it was needed, because we have seen a different Arsenal since they've come back. And people might look at the opposition and go, ain't that great? Arsenal's supposed to win this game. Yeah, they are. Even Liverpool at home, we're favourites to beat them still. But when you look at it, I'm still not sure that you can sit there and be that brutal, because Arsenal have absolutely destroyed teams. Yeah, teams like Burnley, we should win, but we won comfortably. West Ham, we should win, we won comfortably. Nottingham Forest, the scoreline suggests it was close, but let's be real, we dominated the game. Liverpool, well deserved, and a really good convincing win as well, not a scraping over 1-0 win, proper 3-1. So I look at it now and think, yeah, I'm really happy with what I'm seeing. And I honestly believe that when we got back from Dubai and we started with Crystal Palace, I wanted 12 points. We got 12 points. Now we've got to go and get another 12 in our next 4 games. That's how it works. And then another 12 in the next 4 games. There's got to be this consistency. There's got to be momentum. And I think there's a lot of Arsenal fans that will actually be a lot more confident now that they have the opportunity to go into games believing that we can go and pick up 3 points. Doesn't matter who we're playing. When the confidence is there, all the fans are lifted with it. And I think that there were some really good opportunities to look at players yesterday who have improved. And that's where I'm going to start. Let's start in goal. When you win comfortably and there isn't much for a goalkeeper to do, there's a good way to look at it and a bad way to look at it. The good way to look at it is they're not near our goal, so we can relax. The bad way to look at it is two things. You could lose concentration because there's not much for you to do. And also, there's the we're not really testing the goalkeeper. So, how good is he? They're the two things. How good's our keeper got to be because we're so great? And when we do need him to actually react, is he going to be able to concentrate because he's hardly done anything for 90 minutes? They're the two negatives. But I've looked at David Raya in nothing but positivity in the last few games since the bye because I've seen a change in him. I've seen a confidence growth. I've seen that he's believed in himself a lot more. I've looked at how settled he's become. And when balls are coming across, I don't know about you guys, he's not the tallest. I think he's only 6 foot as a goalkeeper. But he looks quite commanding. He's coming for crosses. He's looking confident in that. He's making it look easy in terms of his communication with the players around him. I think the defence have got a lot more trust in him now because they recognise that they've played with him a while now and they're starting to get used to him. But more importantly, what I really like is some of the attributes that we were told that we bought him in for Ramsdale for are actually now coming to fruition, i.e. his kicking, his distribution, playing the ball out of his feet, looking comfortable doing it, and also his throwing. His throwing as this quick thinking goalkeeper has been fantastic, man. It really has. Like he has kept the attack going through quick thinking. None of this keep the ball, calm it down, bounce it a couple of times, roll it out or kick it out or just roll it back out to where it's come. None of that stuff has been happening with David Raya, like perhaps we saw. And that is what I'm going to come on to in a minute about our change of style. Because I think even from the goalkeeper right the way through the midfield defence and up top has completely changed. And I think the mindset of David Raya has changed too. Now, everybody started to question whether he was the right fit and whether he was the right upgrade to Ramsdale. And I still stand by the fact that I don't think he is a huge upgrade to Ramsdale. I think they're very, very similar. But some of the attributes and some of the characteristics of David Raya have started to come to fruition now. And I can see now why Mikel Arteta has stuck by him. And you know what? Fair play to him because there was a lot of pressure on him to make this work. A lot of pressure. And I've been really impressed with David Raya. He's been really good. He's kept clean sheets. He's been really happy to keep those clean sheets as well. You see some goalkeepers when you're 4-0 up, they're like, do you know what, even if I concede now, we still won the game. He's not been about that. The whole of his back line have been with him. Every time he's saving, every time the defender's there, they're patting each other, they're going for each other, they're screaming at each other. They want that clean sheet, man. Clean sheets are massive in football. You don't concede a goal, you will not lose a game of football. It's that simple, people. Yeah? So David Raya definitely deserves credit where credit's due. The other player I want to talk about is our new left back at the moment, Kiwior. Now, when he came onto the scene, I think it was Luton that he played at left back. He looked dodgy. Then he played a game in the Europa League. That's so last season. Champions League against, I think it was PSV. Looked really bad. And I thought, this guy is not a left back. He can't invert. He doesn't look very quick. He's not pacey like people have said he is in terms of breaking records in training. And the other thing that I will say about Kiwior is he looked very comfortable as a left centre back cover for Gabriel, but it looks like a completely different player at left back. And since Dubai, when he has played and Zinchenko hasn't been able to start, he's looked impressive. And I'll tell you why I think this is. Mikel Arteta worked out pretty quickly that Kieran Tierney couldn't invert. But I personally feel he's done with Kiwior what he should have done with Kieran Tierney. And that is he's allowed Ben White to invert on the other side. And I've always questioned, why is it the left back position that has to invert? The reason is Zinchenko does it the best. That's why. What I think he's worked out now, finally, is that if he isn't going to play an inverted left back, then play Ben White there. Now, I'm still not sure Kiwior is going to make it at Arsenal and be an unbelievable player. But in the last few games, I've been quite impressed by Kiwior in terms of his one-on-one defending. I think he's got the height and the presence and the physical attributes to be able to stand his ground. I also think that he has not been caught out through his pace that people have questioned before. I think when he has been asked to do a job to recover for somebody making a mistake, like we saw yesterday, Saliba, he got bossed by Fofana at one stage. he just saw him out and he made it a corner. I think he saw it out for a goal kick. So Kiwior's played better because he's not being asked to do a stupid role of inverting, which is, let's be real, a stupid thing to ask him to do anyway, in my opinion. Now, I kind of wish that we would have done that with Kieran Tierney because Kieran Tierney is a better left back, right? But he didn't. For whatever reason, he doesn't fancy Kieran Tierney. He's now gone. So Kiwior's the guy that now comes in if Tomiyasu, Timber and Zinchenko are all injured. And that's another thing we've got to remember, guys. All three of them at the moment are unavailable. Yeah. Timber's still not ready. Tomiyasu not ready back from the Asian Cup, which is a concern for me. And Zinchenko still not recovered from his knock that he got. So Kiwior's the kind of fourth choice left back. But he's been really good, man. And I've got to big him up because I didn't look at him and think, I thought, geez, this is poor. Like, we need to hurry up and get these players back because this ain't going to work on the left. I think it was against Fulham where it was absolutely abysmal. Really poor. I mean, the whole team was, to be fair, in his defence. But really, really poor. I think it was for the Raul Jimenez goal where he got caught out. And then on the ball, he didn't look very comfortable. And a lot of people comparing his pace to Mertesacker or a left back and all this. He was getting it proper, right? Proper, he was getting it. But when you look at what he's done in the last few games, I've been impressed. So I think Raya and Kiwior are two players that aren't really getting a mention because they're not the Sackers and Odegaards of this world. But I think they deserve credit, man. I think they've been well improved in the last few games and big up to them. And hopefully their form continues. The other player I wanted to talk about was Kai Havertz because there's a lot of people want to discuss Kai Havertz and his form. What I will say, whether you like him or you dislike him, he's improved in the last few games. And the reason that it's impressed me so much with how he's improved is because actually he's playing in a position still that I don't believe that he is. And that is an attacking 8 position. But what I will say, guys, is his runs and his movement and his late runs into the box is very, very, very hard to come up against. Now, I'm not saying that's unbelievable technical ability from Kai Havertz because he just doesn't have that. He's not the sort of player that's going to get the ball, dribble, keep the ball close to him, drive forward, dribble it around 4 players and hit it top bins. That's not Kai Havertz. Kai Havertz is actually a lot more physical than I ever remembered. And what he's doing is he's complementing some of the players around him. And people will say, well, he's been doing that all season. I don't know that he was. I think, in fact, he was probably, what's the word? Stopping the development of the likes of Martinelli at the start of the season, playing in that left 8. Martinelli wasn't having a good game. Zinchenko wasn't having a good start to the season. Our midfield looked good with Rice, but I don't think it looked good other than that. I think it looked good with Odegaard in parts when Havertz wasn't there. But when Havertz and Odegaard were together, it wasn't really working. But now I've started to see what Havertz is doing. And the late runs yesterday were exceptional. The movement yesterday was really impressive. Now, I know it's Burnley and, oh, wow, get excited. This is like it's Burnley, calm down. But I don't think Kai Havertz of the last few games, people can question how good he has been in those games. The Liverpool game, he played as a 9. I thought he was really good. The West Ham game, I didn't think he was the best player on the pitch by any means, but I didn't think he had a bad game. And yesterday, I thought he had a fairly good game. And he scored a very good goal, by the way. Very good goal. I think he capitalised on some of the mistakes that Burnley were making. And I just think sometimes people don't want to say Kai Havertz has had a good game because they don't like him. I don't particularly like him. I don't think he's one of our better players at all. At all. But I think he deserves a little bit of credit when he's playing well. Just like everybody else does. Yeah, just like everybody else does. Eddie Nketiah likewise. When Eddie Nketiah plays well, like he scored a hat-trick against Sheffield United, fair play. You don't sit there and go, yeah, but he's rubbish. You say, well played. Good hat-trick. Hope it continues. And I think sometimes people need to do that a little bit more with our players. And I think Kai Havertz is one of those that really has kind of allowed for people to have an opinion and stick by it. Even when he proves you wrong, you watch him and go, oh, I know he scored and he set up 2, but actually I still don't like him, so he must be rubbish. Actually, let's allow him to actually try to get through this season and see what his stats are like. He scored 5 goals now. Granit Xhaka scored 7 last season. So he could be equaling that or getting better than it. Yeah, he's only got, I think, 1 or 2 assists. But he's got goals and assists also in the Champions League as well. So let's just see what Kai Havertz is about, man, by the end of this season. His settling in period is done now. He's on a hell of a lot of money a week. He cost a hell of a lot of money. And I do like to see him further up the pitch. And I think this new position and interchange with Leandro Trossard is actually complementing his game as well and the players around him. So that's where I'm at with Kai Havertz, and I think he definitely deserves a mention as well. The next thing I want to talk about is the style of play. Now, no one can deny that Arsenal have changed their style of play. You look at the goals, you look at the creativity, you look at the number of chances. People were saying to me, we were creating loads of chances, and it was the players that weren't putting in the back of the net. Look at the goals we've scored now and tell me we're still playing the same. We are not. We are not playing the same. We are a lot more free flowing. There is no more passing it sideways and backwards. There's no more Saka being in a great position but deciding to go back to Ben White. There's no more Kai Havertz in a position where he can run on but actually deciding to go back to Jorginho or Rice. There's no more Declan Rice going back to Saliba, Saliba to Gabriel, Gabriel back to Saliba. There's no more Martin Odegaard, who at the time has been a lot deeper. But there's no more him going backwards, sideways, backwards, sideways. Decision making looks better. We look more free flowing. There's a lot more tenacity. We look more attractive. We look a lot more attacking. And there seems to be an understanding at the moment of when to attack. And I think sometimes we were questioning that, going, why aren't we doing this? Like, surely this is a negative style of play. Are we controlling things? We're looking at possession-based football. We're trying to win 1-0 and 2-1. We're trying not to get too knackered and exhausted by the end of the season. I'm scratching my head thinking, what the hell is this nonsense? If that is true, massive risk. Massive, massive risk. However, let's hope it pays off, because Mikel Arteta has done something in Dubai that has allowed us to become a lot more free-flowing and a lot more attack-minded. And I've been really, really impressed by that. And that's something that I'll look at and say, do you know what? Fair play. Because Mikel Arteta deserves a lot of credit in the last few games as well as the players. The players have stepped up at times. They've finished their dinner. They've managed to get into a situation where they've comfortably won games of football. But let's pick up the manager as well, man, because I've been so impressed with some of the decision making, and Ben White inverting at right back and sticking with the goalkeeper and Kai Havertz and trying to shift things to make it work, trying to have belief in them. That deserves a lot of credit. You know, a lot of people are questioning that. He's going to fall on his sword with David Raya. He's going to fall on his sword with Kai Havertz. Do you know what? Excuse me. I'm really interested to know your thoughts on this one, because I think Mikel Arteta deserves a lot of credit in these last few games. And I don't think sometimes that he does get that from players that have doubted him. And I've questioned Mikel Arteta. You know, all know I have. I've had concerns about whether he can get us across the line. When he does stuff right, though, you've got to say fair play. And at the moment, he's getting it spot on. But I would say in the last 3 games, tactically, he's been as close to a 10 out of 10 that I can give him. If I was to give the manager a rating and players' ratings, so I don't never do that on my channel really, but some people like to listen to that and like to hear that. I'd give him close to 10 out of 10 in all 3 of these last 3 games. It's been absolutely phenomenal tactically. So I think he deserves credit. And that's why I'm going to give him some credit. Listen, we're only 5 likes away from 100 people. Make sure you do me a favor. There's 300 of you in here watching live, which is great. I hope you're enjoying yourself on this Sunday morning. I hope you had a great weekend. And let's be real, if Carlsberg did Saturdays, then it got close to a perfect Saturday for us yesterday, didn't it? So let's make sure that we do us a favor by smashing the like button. Subscribe to the channel if you're new, please, and get involved in the poll, which is at the moment sitting at yes for 87% and no for 13%. The question is, are we starting to look like the Arsenal from last season? What have you seen changed? Are we looking like we were electric-wise last season? Are we smashing teams in a demolition derby way because of our form looking similar to last season? At the moment, 87% of you say yes, we are starting to look like the Arsenal from last season, and only 13% of you are saying no. I wanted to talk on and touch on, before we do come to a close in the last part of this show, on our set pieces and what we believe we've seen changed. We have 100% seen changes in our set pieces. We've seen changes and differences between our set piece takers, which before Dubai were Trossard and Martinelli, that now have turned into Saka and Rice. We've seen difference of style of how we're taking our set pieces and our free kicks as well, by the way, not just corners. This is, yeah. Rice has been identified as being very technically gifted, and I think that is absolute credit to him as a footballer. But the one person that needs credit for this is Nicolas Jover. Now, Nicolas Jover is our set piece coach, and last season and the season before, we saw huge improvements as a football club, taking corners, defending from corners, attacking from corners, and also free kicks likewise. We were in a position not long ago where they were absolutely dire. And it was really actually quite embarrassing when we got a corner. We may as well have just basically kicked it off for a goal kick and let them start again. It was that embarrassing. But we have seen massive changes since Dubai. And although yesterday it wasn't the key to how we won the game and we scored a lot more goals from open play, against West Ham, it was really, really obvious. And against Palace, by the way, at home. We have some absolute monsters now that can score and defend from set pieces. Gabriel, William Saliba, Ben White, Kiwior, Kai Havertz, Declan Rice. All those players are over 6 foot. They're between 6 foot and 6'5", those players I've mentioned. So we've got absolute monsters in there that can be an aerial threat. But also they give a physical presence. And the attributes they use are like the old school Arsenal teams that have won stuff over the years, like Tony Adams, Martin Keown, Steve Bold, Sol Campbell, Kolo Toure, Patrick Vieira, Gilberto Silva, even players like Dennis Bergkamp, who was a tall, strong individual that could hold their own. We're starting to see those attributes come back into play. And it wasn't long ago, people, that we had Socrates and we had Mustafi and we had Schillaci and Bellerin. Players like that. When you're looking around the team and you're like, Granit Xhaka's probably our only hope here. That was a worry. Now we're starting to see some presence in this side. And that for me as a spine is only going to be a good thing. But actually it starts to show how important it is from set pieces, defending and attacking them. So that for me is a massive, massive plus. So what I wanted to do was give you a little bit of an example here of what I'm talking about, where our improvements have become with our set pieces, because I'm a huge, huge fan of what I've seen from this so far. I feel that we were in a position defending and attacking from corners where we have massively, massively seen improvements. Now, let me take you down to the bottom left-hand side of the screen here, okay? I'll move the football around so you can see it. So this is the corner taker. This is, imagine Leandro Trossard taking corners. And this was before Dubai, okay? This was where we were setting up. We'd obviously have two of your quickest players here where I'm moving towards the end that just in case they go on the counter, they can keep up. You normally have someone outside the box that's usually maybe a Declan Rice or Jorginho or somebody who can actually have a dig in a kind of Fabregas or Thomas Rosicky type role here where they can actually have a dig from outside the box. And then the rest of the players are in the box trying to attack the football, right? So Leandro Trossard was taking our corners. Sometimes it was Martinelli. This was before Dubai. Now, we actually did score some goals and we were one of the best at set pieces still. But this is where we've taken it to another level. Now, what was happening was Leandro Trossard was taking corners and we were trying to do the old school Tony Adams and Steve Bold flick-ons. And what I mean by that, for those that are too young to remember what that means, is you hit it near post to this guy here. He then flicks the ball to your striker to head it in. Now, we scored lots of goals like this under George Graham with Tony Adams and Steve Bold. We had the understanding that we was one of those that were going to flick it on for the other centre forward to put it in, or in the case of Steve Bold and Tony Adams, the other centre half. Now, that was trying to be worked in set pieces and it was trying to be worked within training. But what was happening a lot was we weren't beating the first man. So the first man was being hit and it would go off for another corner and we try it again, hit the first man, go off for a corner, try it again. There was actually one game, and I don't remember, I think it was maybe Brighton or Wolves. We actually hit the first man 3 times and he just kept heading it off. It was just embarrassing. The other thing that was happening was we weren't beating the first man and it would just be booted out for a throw-in. But actually there was a couple of games, right? And if our opposition would have been had the top quality, which some of them obviously will have in the Man Cities and Liverpools if we were still working this way, is being flicked on and then they'd be able to go on the attack and hit us on the counter-attack. Now, this was happening with Trossard and Martinelli, and it was nothing to do with their lack of technical ability because they're two fantastic players, right? And we've proven this season already how fantastic that they've been, right? But when you look at it, things have changed massively now, which is why I'm going to take you over to the other side. Top right-hand side, you've got the football here. This guy taking the corners is no longer Trossard or Martinelli, it's Declan Rice. And this is very, very similar to only last week when we played West Ham. Already the starting position of Arsenal is different. The reason it's different is because most teams zonal mark now, okay? So at the moment, it looks like no one's marking each other, but that's because it's zonal. And what was happening here against West Ham is all of our players were far post. Every single one of our players was near the near post. Now, of course, they're being marked in their zonal positions. It's not like all of them are standing together, but it looks like that at the moment. And what Declan Rice was doing, okay, was he was hitting some of what I call as the perfect corners. Now, the worst corners you can take are ones that don't hit the first man, that come around this area and just get cleared. The other corners that are really poor is when they go way too close to the goalkeeper and he just catches it. And the other ones that I can't stand are the ones that go way over the top and they're absolutely awful and no one's there. They're the three worst corners that you can take. And we've seen in the past, probably in the last 10 years, some of the worst corners that Arsenal have taken have probably been in a variety, all of those things. Beat the first man, no. Go over the top to the far post, overhit. Oh, it's gone into the keeper's arms. We've seen that quite a lot. And that can happen any game of time, right? Sometimes you just get it wrong in corners. But what I'm seeing from Declan Rice and Bukayo Saka, who are now the two corner takers, is the ball's coming over. It's in line with the penalty area or the penalty spot, too far away from the goalkeeper, and it's hitting the far post around here. And what that's allowing is for any of the defenders to be put out of the game completely. All of these guys are no longer in the game, okay, because the ball's completely gone over their heads. The goalkeeper doesn't know if to come out here because he's going to get caught if he misses it for us to put it in, or he doesn't know if to track back and try to look to go for it there. So he's just keeping his ground and standing his ground, and he's watching the ball and he's watching where the ball's going now, the goalkeeper, and that's a real vulnerable spot for him. And what we're seeing is the ball, in this case to Saliba in the first West Ham goal, is being won by the header and it's gone into the goal. Now, this has been won by Saliba here, but we've also seen it in the opposite way. So Saka over this corner, it's gone really long and the ball's gone over to Gabriel, who's put it in. And we're also allowing for Kai Havertz, Ben White, Gabriel and Saliba, and in this case now he's playing Kiwior, to be 6 foot to 6'5" gentlemen that are 100% at an advantage of winning the ball in the air. Now, these guys together sometimes get in each other's way. Look how clustered it is here. Yeah. But what happens is, as the ball comes across from Rice and it gets to about here, the players start to attack it. So all of these players here from the far post are now running towards it. And it's so clustered in there, it ends up like this. And then what happens is it gets to them. Now, don't get me wrong, the West Ham and the Burnley defence were going towards this now. So what you end up with is a complete and utter cluster of all of our players that are defending and attacking the ball. But there's been an advantage for the Red Men of Arsenal to get ahead of it, to head the ball in. Now, that's been happening now for the last 3 or 4 games. And we've seen that with the likes of Crystal Palace, where we won 5-0. We've seen it with the West Ham game. And then we saw it against Burnley. Now, there were set pieces and corners that we didn't really score all 5 from. And we did score quite a few against Palace and West Ham. But that's the key for me, is we've completely changed it. So when people are watching the videos of us taking set pieces, because of course nowadays with technology that happens, we're getting to a stage now where clubs are up against us thinking they've completely changed the way they're going here. We don't know if they're going to go near post. We don't know if they're going to go penalty spot. We don't know if they're going to go far post. But we've really caught teams out in the last games through that. And big up, by the way, to Gabriel and Saliba, because they're two players that actually are a massive threat from corners, but they back it up. It's not like, oh my God, this guy's a lump, but he actually can't put it in. So I actually believe we need a hell of a lot of credit given to our set piece coaches and our coaching staff here, and the work that we did in Dubai, because that for me has been absolutely key and vital moving forward. I've been so impressed with what I've seen by the changes. And I think sometimes my biggest frustration with managers over the past, like Arsene Wenger and at times Unai Emery, was they consistently keep trying something and are stubborn until they want to change it. And I think since Dubai, we've got together and thought we can't keep doing this. You can't lose to Fulham and West Ham. We've got to go now and beat the likes of those teams. And this is how we're going to do it. Ben White's now going to be inverted. Our set pieces are going to change. We're going to allow for some of our assets in the box to actually get their heads on it. Declan Rice is going to take our corners. We've recognised in training that he has got technical ability from dead ball situations. Bukayo Saka is going to get back onto corners, which he's taken before, and some of our free kicks. It isn't going to be Martin Odegaard, Trossard or Martinelli every time. It isn't going to be, oh, let's just hit the first guy. We're actually going to change it up. And I've been really impressed by that. And I think we deserve a lot of credit from that. And I think so does the manager, the players, because they're making it happen. And it shows that there's telepathy and there's understanding that the players are still playing for the manager and they're listening to him. And also the coaching staff. You know, we took Nicolas Jover from Man City as a set piece coach, and things have improved 100%. It started to get a little bit stale, and we've changed it up again. That's all I can ask, is that when things aren't working, change it up. And I've always had the saying of, if plan A isn't working, make plan A better or change to plan B. And I don't think we've made plan A better at times previously. And I don't think we've ever had a plan B. I'm starting to see that a bit more now. We're starting to see Kai Havertz and Trossard as a bit of a plan B, interchanging. We're starting to see that if plan A you can't make better, then you can start to look at little different things that can change things up. Ben White now inverts. Kiwior doesn't. The left back no longer inverts. It's Ben White doing it. That's a change. That's a plan B. So I'm actually really quite impressed by what I've seen. I really am. And I think it needs to be praised and needs to be highlighted. So I'm really, really interested in your thoughts on that. Let's take a look at the likes. Let's take a look at the polls. The polls at the moment, are we starting to look like the Arsenal from last season? There's been close to 200 votes and 89% of you now say yes, that our season is starting to look like the Arsenal from last season. Only 11% of you are saying no. So fair play to you people. Everyone's happy watching the Arsenal right now. We've got nearly 400 people in here. We've only got 165 likes. We can do much better than that. All we've got to do is click the like button and hit subscribe, and we'll get very close to 20k as a community, which is of course fantastic as a next target. Listen, we're going to be back for the Race for Europe show tomorrow evening. Dan Lawless is going to get yet another cooking. We're going to get all of the lads on. LB has got question marks over Man City dropping points finally. Myself and Errol will be asking those questions and being very, very smug, seeing as being now sit within touching distance of each other. 3-horse race, 100%. And then on Wednesday, before the Porto game, Deji is going to get cooked. Because I don't know if you've seen the clip on Twitter, but my God, he was adamant they were winning against Wolves. So Lawless and Deji, stay tuned by this channel. Make sure you like and subscribe because they're going to have to answer for themselves. They really are. So look forward to that tomorrow night, 8 p.m. on the Race for Europe show. Tonight at 9:30, if you head over to Lee Judges TV, it'll be myself and Lee and Adrian talking all things Arsenal, talking all things this weekend, and our look towards Porto. So please make sure that you don't miss that one. So head over to Lee Judges TV, hit a like and subscribe on that, and hit the notification bell so you remember that we are there live at 9:30 tonight. Do me a favor, people. Smash a like. What are we on now? We are on 171. Let's make sure we can get that up to 200, please, people. That would be amazing. So do that as you see us out. Big up the Arsenal. Massive, massive, massive result yesterday. Every result is massive at the moment. We look forward to Porto next. I'll probably be doing some form of review on that one and preview on that one, sorry. So we'll definitely make sure I'm not going out to Porto so I can be here with you guys watching it and talking all things Arsenal as we go into that game. So please make sure that you support the channel by hitting a like as you see us out. And we'll see you next time. Up the Arsenal. Laters.